I think one of the most relatable feelings related to psychosis is loneliness, which seems ironic, right? That something that can be so universal makes you feel like you're the only person experiencing it. But the thing is, psychosis has this way of isolating a person and putting them into their own separate reality where they are pretty much the only one experiencing these things happening to them. And while loved ones may walk by their side while they're going through it, no one will ever actually be able to penetrate that reality. And in that reality, they may have experiences that tell them they are the only person, that they are the last man left on earth, that everyone around them is really an imposter, an android, an alien, what have you, that in a room crowded full of people, they are the only person. That in itself is very lonely. Then you throw in the recovery, when they realize that, no, that's not actually the case, but I'm still the only one that experienced it, you are compounded with even more loneliness. So when it comes to psychosis, loneliness can come from any angle. There are so many variables and so many different ways that loneliness can permeate this condition and cause a person to feel just like the last man left on earth. So let's talk today about the nature of loneliness and psychosis, why psychosis can feel so isolating, and how to come back from that. Before we get started, I would just like to throw out a disclaimer to say that I am not a mental health care professional, and I'm in no way qualified to give any advice, psychiatric or otherwise. Who I am simply is a person with lived experience having serious mental illness who is here to share with you the wisdom and insight I've gleaned along my journey of recovery. Also, a trigger warning to say that the subject of psychosis may at times be a sensitive subject that can be difficult to talk about. So if at any point during today's talk I say anything that may be triggering or upsetting to you, you are more than welcome to leave. I remember during my first very severe psychotic episode, realizing that the people in my life didn't agree with me on a lot of things that I thought were just basic knowledge. Things that I thought were just irrefutable facts, seeing them shake their heads in disbelief, like, what is she talking about? Thinking, why don't you get it? It's simple. There's a demon and he's trying to possess me and I need an exorcism. What's so hard to get? They were so confused. Everything I had to say confused them. They weren't trying to agree or disagree. They were just confused, and I could tell. And being able to tell that they were confused by my reality, which I didn't realize was only real to me, told me that I was alone. Like this one time when I was standing on the lawn of a hospital. I had been admitted to the ER. They didn't have room for me in an actual room, so I'd been sitting on a gurney in the hallway, and I got off of my gurney and walked out of the ER to run away from the ER because I thought they were going to turn me into a dog. That's what doctors do, obviously. And I'm standing in the lawn. The security have come out to bring me back into the ER, but I won't budge. I'm adamant that you can't take me back. My mom is there. She's trying to have me convinced that they should take me back. And I'm in this situation with all these people. It's very stressful, very heightened. And I'm trying to logically explain to them why I don't want to be turned into a dog. And they all looked confused, bewildered, just uncertain of what to say or do. Like, I had them all stumped. I was looking from one security guard to the next, to my mom, telling them in basic language, look, if I'm a dog, I can't talk. They're trying to silence me. You won't silence me. I need to leave this ER because they turn people into animals here, and that's wrong. And explaining this to people who just didn't understand was like making me feel completely alone. The realization of seeing that your words aren't landing. People don't understand what you're saying. People aren't on your side. People don't have your back. Even if you're not in psychosis, it's a really isolating feeling. It's just that in psychosis, no matter what I say, it's going to have that effect because nothing I say is going to get through to people. They won't understand where in my mind that came from. And because I don't realize that my reality is any different than theirs, I can't see where I'm falling short, and I don't understand why they're looking at me like I'm crazy, which is starting to make me feel a little bit crazy. So just the cognitive disconnect between me and others is an area of psychosis that left me feeling very lonely oftentimes. I didn't know that I was in a different reality, but I can pick up on social cues even in psychosis. I think that's something people don't realize is that, we're still there. We're not all there, but we are still to a degree there. And I'm still the kind of Carolyn that can recognize when her sister's pissed at her. And so when my sister is at a loss for words, my sister who normally never shuts up, I can pick up on that. And I know I'm being treated differently. I feel very alienated right now. I feel like people are talking about me when I'm not in the room. I feel like I'm the subject of everybody's conversations when I'm not there. They're concerned for some reason. I don't know why. I can pick up on a lot of things, but I just can't pick up that my reality is different than theirs. The thing is with this social awareness is that it's tainted by psychosis, and so it's not really the case that I am aware that people have concern for my well-being. I'm aware of some kind of a persecutory delusion that people are conspiring against me, people are plotting, people are out to get me, people probably aren't even human, and that's another area where loneliness goes way out of control. It's one thing to believe that you're going to be turned into a dog at the hospital and your loved ones aren't on your side. It's another thing to believe that your dog got turned into the loved ones. Like, this is a two-way street, and while humans may be turned into animals, animals are being turned into humans. Or aliens are disguised as humans, or androids look like humans, and everybody is anything but human. I had a lot of delusions of misidentification, and this is honestly my favorite subtype of delusions to learn about. I have gone on great deep dives into delusions of misidentification on TikTok because, wow, it is just astonishing what your mind can come up with. But essentially, delusions of misidentification are delusions in which a person does not believe that a person, place, or thing is what it is. They may believe that a building is a hologram. They may believe that an object is like a port key, like in Harry Potter. They might believe that their mom is Elvis Presley. So delusions of misidentification are just believing things aren't what they seem. And I had this one a lot. This was one of my most common delusions in every episode. I was always believing that people were androids, people were aliens. I was an alien, I was an android, and it never ended. It was constantly the case that people were anything but human. And the thing about believing that people are anything but human is that it can feel so isolating when you think you're the last man left on Earth. And I felt this way a lot. I would feel that of all the billions of people on planet Earth, I was the only one left, and that the entire planet had been overtaken by androids, and that they were all going along pretending to be humans, not saying that they were androids, kind of like the invasion of the body snatchers. And I was just playing along with it because I didn't want to get caught for being the only human left alive. I didn't want the androids to know that I knew what they knew. It was super stressful, but it was just so lonely. And this was the kind of loneliness where a person can be standing in the middle of a super duper duper busy grocery store picking out veggies and fruits with people walking by left and right and feel like, wow, I have never been so alone in my life. There is not a single person in this store with me right now, surrounded. So yeah, in psychosis, there's a lot of different ways you can feel lonely. You can feel isolated from your loved ones because they don't understand what you're going through, and you can tell there's something about them that they don't get you and you don't know why. But then, also the feeling like you're the last man on Earth, despite however many dozens of people are in your vicinity, then believing that everyone you come in contact with isn't a real person, they're an imposter, and feeling just so completely alone with the crushing responsibility of carrying on the human race and being the only one left, it's a lot. There's a lot to feel lonely about. So you'd think that in recovery, you'd get a little bit of break from the loneliness, right? No, because recovery is yet another isolating, lonely experience. It doesn't have to be, but in my experience, recovering from psychosis is very lonely too. And this is in part because in psychosis, you have multiple types of symptoms. You have cognitive symptoms that affect your cognitive abilities. You have positive symptoms that are additions to your reality, like hallucinations and delusions that add reality on top of your existing reality. And you have negative symptoms that take away from your reality. Things like losing motivation, losing pleasure in things you love, and losing your social life. Negative symptoms are the first symptoms to present in psychosis, and they linger. They can be the last to go. And so for me, coming out of psychosis may have meant that I was losing symptoms like hallucinations and delusions, but I was still struggling with symptoms like asociality, which caused me to withdraw from everybody, caused me to close in on myself and not want anything to do with anybody. I pushed people away. I didn't want to be around people after psychosis. And that's just, again, the nature of psychosis. It's very isolating in its very nature, in part because even outside of believing you're the last man on earth or recognizing that people aren't on your side, they don't get you, you don't want people in your life. You don't want that support, even when you need it most. My friends practically dragged me out of my room to get me to be social in that time. When I was recovering from psychosis, I was fortunate enough to have two incredible friends, Kaylee and Jake. And Kaylee and Jake went above and beyond to keep me okay. They didn't know what the fuck had happened to me. They knew I'd been through it. They didn't know what I'd been through, but they were around enough to see that I was acting very strange. And then they saw me crash, and then they saw me lose my speech ability, and they saw me become catatonic, and they showed up, and they actually did drag me places. Kaylee would take me to the beach to go swimming. Jake would take me to play frisbee. They would force me to talk to them, which was impossible because I had no thoughts. I mean, they were really they didn't have to, but they recognized a friend in need and they forced me to come out of myself. Thank fucking God, because I don't know how I could have recovered from psychosis without them. And not everyone is fortunate enough to have friends who will force themselves into your room and drag you out of bed the way mine did. But everybody deserves a Kaylee and a Jake, okay? Let's give a round of applause because they were some fantastic heroes back then. Thankfully, I got past the recovery, okay? So I got past the recovery. Whew, all right, I'm done feeling isolated now, right? No, because psychosis came with shame, and with shame comes silence. I didn't tell anybody what I had been through. Even Kaylee and Jake never explicitly heard the word psychosis come out of my mouth. I don't think to this day Kaylee knows that I have schizoaffective disorder because I never told her and we lost touch, honestly. So it's honestly a mystery to me what she does know about that event that she was very much a part of. The thing is that I held it in and I wouldn't tell anyone. And because I wouldn't tell anyone, no one told me that they'd had similar experiences. And I didn't know there were people who had had similar experiences. I genuinely thought I was the only person this had ever happened to. I carried the embarrassment and the guilt and the shame for over 10 years before I actually came across someone who shared about their similar experiences with no shame whatsoever. It was in an AA meeting, and it was April 2020, I want to say. April or May of 2020. I was at the park. There was an outdoor AA meeting. A woman was sitting at a picnic bench talking about streaking across a bridge in psychosis, and she had no shame. And she said it like there was absolutely nothing to be ashamed about. I had done the exact same thing. I had streaked in psychosis, and it was something that had eaten me alive for years that I couldn't live with. And here she was saying it, the exact same thing, unaffected. Thank God for this woman, because after that meeting, I went up to her and I said, "Can we talk?" And we sat on that park picnic bench for over an hour. She was the first person that I told I had schizoaffective to, and we talked so openly. And it was the first time that I was hearing my story told back to me by another person and being like, oh my God, that's normal? Like, I thought I was the only person in the world who had done this, who had felt this way, who had had these fears, and to find out that I'm not. It's actually a pretty relatable experience. That was a game changer, and that is probably the only reason I'm able to make videos like this today, is because of that one conversation with that woman after an AA meeting. If I had never heard her story, I'd probably still think I was the only person who believed that people were androids, or that I might, be turned into a dog by a doctor at the hospital. Like, things that are actually relatable. They just don't seem like they'd be relatable. They're so outlandish. But no, yeah, actually, if you can get past the shame and the embarrassment and be able to open up, you'll find that there's a lot about psychosis that's deeply relatable, deeply relatable. I initially started making videos in a way of trying to relate to people, just trying to find people like me who understood what I'd been through. And in that sense, it was a very selfish pursuit. I'm not gonna lie, I craved validation. I wanted to be told that I wasn't crazy for having thought that I was dead, and that, that I'd been a dog, and that I had married God. Like, I wanted to find people who could understand that and tell me, no, girl, same. Like, I have been there too. But the thing is, it's grown beyond that, because now I've found that as a content creator, I have a responsibility to, I don't know, put out content that helps people feel not so alone, the way I felt when I started making videos. This isn't so much about me trying to find people to relate to anymore, because I found you guys. You guys, you're right there for me to see every time I open YouTube and look at the comments. But I would like to be out there for people to find, so that they can see my videos and say, oh my God, me too. Up until today, I thought I was the only person that was scared I'd be turned into a dog by a doctor. Thank God I'm not alone. Thank God there's this random purple and blue haired chick on the internet to tell me that she's been through it too. It's honestly the main reason I make videos still, is because I know that I have tapped into a really relatable experience that doesn't seem relatable. And the reason it doesn't seem relatable is it's not being talked about enough. Or if it's being talked about, it's being talked about by people that make it look scary. And I don't want it to be any scarier than it already is. Like, I want people to watch my videos and feel comforted that the most horrible thing that's ever happened to them is not just their experience alone, that people know that feeling too. They know that level of terror, because it is terrifying. I would hope that if there's any one thing my videos can offer, it's a chance to relate or understand, one of the two. If people can walk away from my videos having a better understanding of psychosis, or a better ability to relate, like, that's the goal. Funnily enough, I plan my video topics months in advance, and this week's topic just so happened to coincide with Lady Gaga revealing that she has herself experienced psychosis. And I could not find a more fitting parallel for this week's video, because there is something about psychosis that people don't want to admit they've had it, that it's embarrassing to talk about. And for a celebrity of her caliber to say openly and candidly without shame that she's had psychosis, and to relay that experience without it being a demonized subject, is huge for our community. This is so wonderful. It's really unfortunate that it happened to her, but it's great news for the psychosis community that a celebrity of that caliber is being honest and open about having psychosis. The reason it's so demonized to this day is because it's such a hush-hush topic amongst people who've had it. There's not a lot of awareness of big names like Lady Gaga having psychosis. For someone that famous to make it look human, that is enormous, okay? And I was really touched to find out that she was open about it. I got so many people texting me articles about Lady Gaga having psychosis, and I feel that that is exactly the kind of news we need in this community, for people to break down the barriers of shame, embarrassment, and guilt, for people to stop feeling so alone, to know that they're not alone, that even big celebrities like Lady Gaga have it. That was really good news this week. So yeah, psychosis can be very isolating. It can be a very lonely experience to get through, but it's not a feeling you have to live with forever. It is possible to get through the loneliness of psychosis. And I have found that through community and through finding people to relate to, it's possible to not only gain stability, but heal through your psychosis and be able to recover without the guilt and shame that may be keeping you feeling so isolated. Anyway, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you can relate. Was psychosis isolating for you too? How did you get through it? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know. You can also support my channel by liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell for notifications to my future videos. Or if you'd like, you can further support my channel by checking out my merch store. I have a link to it in the description box below, where you can find cool hoodies and tees and hats, etc. Anything your heart desires. I put out videos every Thursday/Friday, as well as TikTok compilations on Mondays. So if you'd like to see more of my content, there will be plenty more coming soon. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.